I got the answer to the question that every single college football fan of a big-time program wants to know is, will our coach be the next one to win his first national championship? Because currently in college football, there are only three. Think about that. Only three active head coaches that have won national championships. You got Ryan Day, who won his first last year at Ohio State. Two with Dabo Swinney over there at Clemson. And then you got two with Kirby Smart down there at Georgia. That's it. Nobody else. Ain't no Nick Saban walking through the door, Ed Ogeron, Les Miles, Gene Chizik, none of them. They're all gone. And so somebody has to be the next one to take the guard. And when you got a bunch of big-time, name-brand head coaches getting paid a lot of money, the boosters, the fans, the recruits, everybody expects that they are going to hoist that national championship trophy at some point in time. Now, the question is, who is it going to be? Because there's a lot of teams that have a lot of hope. They've recruited well. The fans have donated to the NIL. They built new facilities, everything that you could possibly need to win a national championship. And the question is, who will be next now that Ryan Day is off of this list? Oh, we're going to start with a man that I know very well. A man who's been interviewed here on the Unafraid Show as well. And that's Mr. Dan Lanning over there at Oregon. He has transformed what Mario Cristobal built with this team at Oregon. And this team looks great getting off the bus. They look like an SEC team. The offensive line, look at the two deep at guard and tackle. Average height, 6'6". Starting offensive line, the lowest weight is 310. They average 320. The defense has a dominant pass rusher, actually really two, but the name brand one is Mateo Uiagalelei. They got three returning productive linebackers, including a hometown hero in the middle in Bryce Betcher. Their last three recruiting classes are ranked number 9, number 3, and number 5. And when you think about the blue chip ratio that 247 puts out every single year, they are consistently in that group of teams that can win a national championship. Then when you look at their transfer portal, it has been way more giveth than taketh away, because few people have left the program that were significant contributors. And the Ducks and Dan Lanning are going into the third year with the same offensive coordinator, Will Stein, and going into the fourth year with the same defensive coordinator with Tosh Lupoy. Because Dan Lanning has moved more to a CEO model, which is what every single team that has won a national championship going back a long time has had. You have not had very many coaches in history that have been play callers and head coaches and have won a national championship, because coaches have to trust the people to call the offense and the defense while they sit there and focus on the high level stuff. Of course, they got to glad hand the boosters and everything else, but they got to focus on preparation, motivation, coaching the coaches, the culture, and it's a proven model that's worked in college football. The biggest challenge, though, that the Ducks are going to face is they are in a tough Big Ten. They are in a very challenging era, whereas you don't have to just win 2 games to win a national championship, or 1 like you did in the BCS era. Now you got to go win a minimum of 3 games and possibly 4, which makes winning the national championship now harder than it's ever been. Now we're going to head on over to old College Station with our man, Mr. James Franklin, head coach over at Penn State, because he's got a rep right now. He can't win the big game. And right now, in 2025, is his best opportunity, because he has an experienced quarterback. He has one of the best running back rooms in all of college football. They have hit the transfer portal hard for the wide receiver crew, because remember, that's all the reason why Drew Aller wasn't playing that great. They have a stout defense, an excellent defensive coordinator that they stole from Ohio State after winning a national championship. There are no more excuses. And when you look this particular season, Ohio State has lost a lot, as all champions do. And Michigan isn't all the way back. Oregon gets to go to College Station and play them this year. This is the window. And they don't play Michigan this year. And then they're likely going to be favored in at least 10 out of their 12 games, but could be favored in all 12 since they host Oregon, and Ohio State might take a step back this year. They have 4 returning starters on the offensive line, and Singleton and Katron Allen are the best running back duo in college football. The defense returned 7 starters, and they have recruited well as well. And we're talking about a team that has 34 wins in the last 3 years with 2 top 7 finishes. And if you look at Ohio State from 2021 to 2023, they were at 33 wins with 2 top 6 finishes. Everything lines up to Penn State having an opportunity and James Franklin, because the last 3 high school recruiting classes are 14, 15, and 15. Now, maybe that doesn't scream natty, but look at what Dabo Swinney did at Clemson. Those are Clemson numbers right there when they won the 2 national championships. Now, the top edge rusher and tight end in this year's draft, when they came in as 247's number 90 overall recruit, that was Abdul Carter, and a 3-star tight end outside the top 20 at his position in Ty Warren, who turned into first-round picks. So development is king. The biggest challenge for James Franklin is going to be shaking the stigma, is when you get into these big games, is not getting tight because you're like, oh, I got to prove everybody wrong. No, you just got to go out, stay the course, and you should eventually be able to get it done. Now, before we go on, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend about the Unafraid Show and be one of us. Next, we got to head on down to SoCal, in my neck of the woods, with Lincoln Riley over there at USC. Imagine Lincoln Riley finally winning a national championship with Jaden Maivia at his quarterback when everybody thought it would be Caleb Williams. That would be just like Tennessee winning the year after Peyton Manning left with T. Martin as their quarterback. But it is not completely out of the realm of possibility. This roster has 2 of the most impressive athletes in America at left tackle. And at wide receiver 1, they got Jacoby Lane, they got Elijah Page, and at running back, Eli Sanders, who they added in the transfer portal. And that's assuming that Lincoln Riley actually decides to run the ball this year, because he doesn't have a quarterback that's going to be able to go out there and just, dominate the football game. Because he seemed to take a page out of Texas's playbook and went out and got 700 pounds of interior defensive line help in former North Carolina high school stars Keyshawn Silver and Jamal Jarrett. That's where USC needed to shore things up, was on the interior, because they were getting pushed around and could be run on by anybody. Now, I can vouch that the recruiting efforts have ratcheted up over there at USC. Right now, as we make this video, they have the #1 recruiting class in America. Now, will they finish that way? It's a whole different story. But they also have ratcheted things up on defense as well for a change, because DeAnton Lynn has done a good job there. And yes, it might be a couple years too late, but now the defense is in good hands. And the biggest challenge for them is going to be avoiding turnovers on offense, especially out of their quarterback, Jaden Maivia. Then at linebacker, Eric Gentry is going to have to stay healthy. And their defensive lineman, Anthony Lucas, going to have to take a big step forward, because you cannot win a national championship, hell, or even the Big Ten, without a dominant defensive line. Now we got to talk about the man down there at Coral Gables in Miami, Mr. Mario Cristobal, who's coaching at his alma mater. So he feels the pressure there, because when he left Oregon, he felt torn. He wanted to stay there, but it is something about that Miami culture that calls them dudes who played there. And people want to believe that Miami lives in the portal. But the truth is, that's not true, because Mario Cristobal is killing it in terms of traditional recruiting. His last 3 classes ranked number 7, number 4, and number 13 according to 247. And yes, we've seen also the transfer portal classes have been excellent as well. Offensive line, where he is a former offensive line coach, and Mario Cristobal is a strength of this team, especially the right side with Inez Cooper and Francis Mayuga. The offensive line is the strength of this team, especially the right side of it, because you got Inez Cooper and you got Francis Mayuga. Now, they made a great addition in adding their new defensive coordinator, Corey Hetherman, out of Minnesota, because the Gophers were 9th nationally in points allowed. And the Golden Gophers in Minnesota, their offense has not been great. Now, imagine if last year with Cam Ward, they had been 9th in points allowed, they'd have won the damn national championship. And then also 5th in total defense and 12th in rushing defense and tied for 9th in passing defense? Come on, man. Come on, man. Because Shannon Dawson, their offensive coordinator, he gets a lot of hate, but he was good enough at OC last year to get his quarterback drafted first overall. So let's not pretend that offense wasn't good enough. But returning only 8 starters from last year is going to be a concern. And then you got transfer quarterback Carson Beck. Now, people didn't expect what they expected out of Cam Ward, but maybe Shannon Dawson is the quarterback whisperer that we believe that Dan Mullen is out there at UNLV. Carson Beck isn't going to have to face many elite defenses in the ACC because they don't play Clemson. But games against Florida and Notre Dame, they ain't going to be easy. So maybe not this year, maybe next year. This next man is on the list because of his Super Bowl history, and that's Bill Belichick. Any responsible person would not say that North Carolina is a national championship contender this year. However, what if nobody on this list wins? Bill Belichick has 2-3 years to get it together. Maybe then it's possible. Because it would be irresponsible to be speculating about the Tar Heels making a run this year. It's the truth. But he's the best NFL coach of all time. They landed a top 10 transfer portal class, including 7 guys that are 6'5" or above. So they definitely got bigger. And then they got Gio Lopez at quarterback. And Bryce Baker is ready to come in and set the ACC on fire. That's a good move. Now, he didn't just bring his son as defensive coordinator because they share his last name. His son, Steven, proved at Washington that he can be the architect of a stingy secondary, which is what has plagued North Carolina for years because they give up points over there, boy. Now, don't be surprised if Marcus Allen and Thad Dixon emerge as 2 of the best cornerback duos on the East Coast this season. Because looking at this schedule, though, it ain't unreasonable to see UNC beating TCU or UCF early in the season. But getting through Clemson, that might be a whole different story. So it'll take a few years for that one. Now let's go down to ASU with Mr. Kenny Dillingham. Because you look at his situation, no Cam Scatterboo. That must mean that Kenny Dillingham's Sun Devil carriage is turning back into a pumpkin, right? Not so fast, my friend, because this is a team that is returning 15 starters and managed to hold on to a lot of their second stringers as well. The thing that this team needed to do in the offseason was retain Sam Levitt, which they did. Then they needed to add to a wide receiver core that was carried by Jordan Tyson, who everybody believes is a first-round wide receiver. Jalen Moss, they added him, and Noble Johnson, and Jaron Hamilton. They're going to make up one of the best offensive transfer hauls in the Big 12. And they needed to bring in competition at running back to try to replace some of Cam Scatterboo's production. They did that. And they got Kenny Udoh from Army. And they desperately needed a kicker because we know how that went last year. And they got one of the better available kickers in the country in Jesus Gomez. Now, this is a team that was picked last in the Big 12 last year. And they might be picked first this year. That's crazy. That's a crazy turnaround. But the Big 12 winner is going to go to the playoffs. That's for sure. So you have to include Kenny Dillingham on here somewhere on this list because that could reasonably happen. And then once you are in the tournament, you have a shot because all you need is a chip and a chair. Now, the challenge is going to be the expectations. Because last year, they could play the underdog card and be like, nobody believes in us. Well, everybody is going to believe in you and you are going to have a target on your back for this year. But to be a champion, though, you got to be able to manage late game situations. And Kenny Dillingham had a couple misses last year. So he went back to the drawing board and can fix that this year. Next man up, the Golden Domer himself. It is Marcus Freeman. And yes, Notre Dame has lost a lot on defense, but they lost a lot on defense during the season last year as well. And if there is one coach in America that you can trust to get their defense right year after year after year, it's going to be a coin toss between Marcus Freeman over there at Notre Dame and Iowa with Kirk Ferentz because he don't have a choice because he can't even score no points. What I like about this year's Notre Dame team is that for the first time in a few years, they're going to have a quarterback that they developed in-house to take over the reins. Because C.J. Carr could end up being the star in the pocket that Notre Dame hasn't had since Brady Quinn. But if you look at how the Irish used Riley Leonard last year, it wouldn't surprise me if dual threat Kenny Minchie ends up being their best chance to make another run at the college football playoff. One of the biggest things Notre Dame has going for itself is what Marcus Freeman has going for him this year, is that the last two national championship teams, they returned a lot of talent on the offensive line. And Notre Dame is bringing back damn near everybody in that category. And Jeremiah Love was one of the best running backs in the country. And Love has to be a tempting bet as a non-quarterback Heisman candidate because the kid is electric. And the Irish schedule, despite what USC fans will tell you, the Irish schedule is one of the toughest in the country, which you have to respect. And outside of games against Purdue and Stanford, it's going to be a grind because 4 of the first 5 games are against Miami, Texas A&M, Arkansas, and then at home against Boise. That ain't easy. If anything's going to get in the way, it could be this schedule. But, I mean, then again, there's no Northern Illinois on the schedule, so they might be all right. We got to head down to Austin, Texas, and talk about Steve Sarkisian. Because Sark has proven that if you want to go to the NFL and get paid along the way in college, Austin is a top option. Now, he didn't rely as heavily on the portal this year as he had in previous years. And one of the reasons why might be that his last 3 high school recruiting classes have been ranked 3rd, 6th, and last year's was the #1 class in the country according to 247, which means that even though he's losing like 20 major contributors off last year's playoff team, the guys in the wings that were waiting are supposed to be ready, especially at quarterback, Arch Manning, which people do have questions about, which is fair. And this is a team that has the potential to have a dominant pass rush, which is something that they used last year to put together an all-time great season from their secondary. Then you got Colin Simmons rushing the passer with his running mate, Anthony Hill Jr. They are going to be game wreckers for every offense in America that they play against. Then you got to look at Sark, where he could run into some issues, is that the Longhorns drew a pretty tough schedule from the, away home this year. They got Ohio State, they got Kentucky on the road, Florida, Georgia. Yes, that is not just an easy thing. And yes, you might be like, Kentucky, yeah, but they're salty at home. So can Sark get it done this year? Because the folks in Austin have put their money where their mouth is and everything is lining up for him to have a chance to win. Now we got to talk about the man down the bayou, Mr. Brian Kelly. Got to be honest, I'm not sure Brian Kelly has done anything in Baton Rouge to deserve to be included on this list of coaches that might be headed for their first national title run. But back to the top 10 high school recruiting classes. And this year's #2 overall ranked transfer class means that you have to take LSU seriously. Because one thing that Brian Kelly has shown that he's always done well is manufacture a jump from year 1 to year 2 in his starting quarterbacks. So you had Jaden Daniels, who won a Heisman in year 2. Ian Book threw 15 more touchdown passes in his second full year under Kelly when he was at Notre Dame. You had Everett Golson and Deshaun Kaiser also looked a lot better in year 2 under Brian Kelly and his staff. But the problem is it's always never translated into more wins. And now we have year 2 of Garrett Nussmeier, who threw for 4,000 plus yards last year on 527 pass attempts. Now, improvement for Garrett would mean like a significant commitment to the run so he doesn't have to carry the Tigers on every single drive. If Kelly's team is going to make a run, he's going to have some of that $2.5 million that their defensive coordinator Blake Baker is making put into action. Because last year, the Tigers' 59th ranked scoring defense, that ain't going to cut it. Maybe Florida transferred Jack Clyburn and Florida State transferred Patrick Payton. Maybe they will be the difference that this team needs because they need some defense. But we'll find out when they open up against Clemson this year. Oof, that's tough, buddy. Give me the Tigers. Get it. Give me the Tigers. Now we got to talk about Kalen DeBoer down there in Alabama because he's already been to a national championship game when he was up in Washington. And you can't deny that. But you can't tell me that he doesn't belong in this discussion, because he lost about 40 blue chippers to the transfer portal, but he still got a talented roster. He landed 8 of 247's top 100 players in last year's class. And while I don't expect a bunch of freshmen to go win a natty, getting contributions here and there from guys like Dijon Lee, Derek Meadows, they could be huge for this Tide team. Now, the question is going to be a quarterback, because Kalen DeBoer, look at what he did with Michael Penix Jr. And what he was doing over there at Fresno State to Pac-12 teams, he was giving them problems. Now, last year, Jalen Milroe was the starting quarterback. He was running all over the place. And this year's expected starter is Ty Simpson. Now, he's much more of a pocket passer. And if they can get an uptick in quarterback play, that will be significant from the pocket. And he's reunited with his offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, who left for the NFL for a year, which is going to be a significant improvement for him. Now, look at this defense, because his coordinator, Kane Womack, he's done a good job at keeping what's left of this roster, even through the spring and through Nick Saban leaving. And it's possible that they needed that level of turnover to establish the culture that they want and not just living in the shadow of Nick Saban. Now, 3 of the first 4 games this year are against Florida State, Wisconsin, and Georgia. Now, we'll know pretty quickly if Alabama is a contender or a pretender. Because if they are a pretender, the Crimson Tide fans go crazy, because they will know a national championship is not possible. And the last coach on this list, Michigan's Sharon Moore. Michigan's title hopes rest on the very wide shoulders of the 2 interior defensive linemen that are stepping in to replace Kenneth Grant and first-round pick Mason Graham. Now, I know Sharon Moore is an offensive guy, but the key to Michigan's success the last few years is putting opposing offenses in hell, making them unable to run the football. Now, Trey Pierce and Rashawn Benny are expected to step in, but in case they aren't ready, Moore went and got Damon Payne and Trey Williams from Alabama and Clemson to make sure that the standard at Michigan stays the standard. Now, there's about 4 dudes that could start at quarterback from this team. And everybody knows that the money is behind Bryce Underwood, but Mikey Keene is that type of game manager that Michigan could use to reignite its 2023 vibes, with Alabama transfer Justice Hayes playing the role of Blake Corum. So they got a shot. They got a formula. You might not think that Moore belongs on this list based on the regression from 2023 to national championship to 2024. But if you look at Michigan's schedule, they'll probably be favored in their first 11 games. 10-2 at a minimum should at least get Michigan an invite to the dance. And when you're in the dance with a talented team, anything can happen. Now, you guys leave in the comments, who do you believe will be the next coach to win a national championship? Put it in the comments and be one of us here on the Unafraid Show.